Hello and welcome to this first Fill the Gap I Invest webinar in collaboration with NCB Merchant Bank. I am Philip Williams, founder of Fill the Gap, a company that's focused on helping you to find and fill the gaps in your financial knowledge so that you make smart money moves, which will help you to achieve some of your big life goals. It's a pleasure to be your host today. The focus will be on the stock market and how you can get started. But first, I want to draw your attention to a study conducted by Standard & Poor's that says only 1 in 3 adults globally are financially literate. And what that means is that the other 2 people don't have the information that they need to be able to make smart decisions with their money. And the knock-on effect of that statistic is 1 in 3 adults have more credit card debt than emergency savings. 2 in 5 people have no money saved for retirement. And according to Bloomberg, more and more people who've actually saved for their future now have to pull cash from their retirement funds to pay day-to-day bills. And most of us think, that the easy fix for money worries is to have more money. But if you don't have the knowledge on how to manage your money, how to make it last, make it work harder for you, then more money is not the answer. And the answer is your financial education. That's the answer. And that's why we launched PTG's first educational program and called it I Invest. It's an investment first and foremost in yourself, but more specifically in your personal finance and investment education. So I'm going to give you more details about the I Invest program later on, but right now, I want you to think about your big life goals. For example, buying a house, starting a business, having enough set aside to send a child, your child to university. And let me ask you to think right now, what's the most important goal that you are working towards? Well, for me, I want to retire early, but whatever it is that you are working towards, write it down, because if you need to have enough funds to be able to do it, the stock market is an excellent tool that can help you to build wealth so that you can achieve that goal. To access the stock market, you need to have a brokerage account, and today we're very fortunate to have the CEO of NCB Merchant Bank alongside 2 important members of his team, and they'll be sharing everything that you need to know about how to open a brokerage account. That's, it's like, think of that like an investment account that allows you to buy and sell stocks. And I am going to concentrate on how the stock market works for you and how it can benefit you. So our first speaker is the CEO of NCB Merchant Bank. He has 14 years of experience in the financial services industry, including roles in corporate and investment banking, investment analysis, trading, and public finance. He holds a Master's of Science in Finance from the London School of Business and a Bachelor of Arts in International Business from Ramapo College in New Jersey. He is also a licensed stockbroker with the Trinidad and Tobago Stock Exchange. Please join me in welcoming Mr. Marley Crease.
Thank you very much, Phil, for that introduction. So I want to chat with you today about the stock market as a tool for creating wealth. But before I get into that, I want to zoom out a bit and talk about the bigger picture. So in a famous interview with Warren Buffett, who is arguably the most successful investor of the last 50 years, he spoke a bit about his own investing journey. And he said that he only ever picked a stock once in his entire life. It was in 1947. He was 11 years old, and he picked a stock, and that was his level of understanding at the time. His idea was you make money by picking stocks. Those stocks appreciate in value, and you get rich. And in speaking about his investing journey, he spoke about the fact that it was the last time he ever picked a stock. What he does is he buys businesses. And this is something that Trinidadians do all the time. Forget about the stock market for a moment. If you go to the classifieds, it could be the Express, it could be the Guardian, you would see listings for businesses for sale. Someone might have a restaurant for sale. Someone might have a hardware for sale. And if you wanted to buy that business, whether it's a hardware, whether it's a restaurant, whether it's a spa, a bed and breakfast, you would go, you would inspect the facility, you would ask to see their financial statements, you would ask to understand who their clients are, what are their plans for growth in the future, how have they been doing in the economy, what kind of return on your investment could you expect, what is the asking price for this particular business, and based on the nature of that business, on its past history, its profitability, who are its staff, how well is the business run, you may make a decision whether or not you want to invest in that particular business because you are investing for the long term. You are buying a business. Now, of course, it's not always feasible to buy a business wholesale, lock, stock, and barrel. There might be physical assets involved. You might have to transfer shares from the company registry. You might have to register yourself. There might be licensing requirements. But that's what it takes to buy a business, and it's something that Trinidadians do all the time. The stock market as a tool for creating wealth is no different. You do not pick stocks, you invest in businesses. And the reality is that if you want to own a business or own a part of a business, it is because you realize on some level that you can only get so far by working for money, and that to get to that next level in terms of financial security, you need to find a way to make money while you sleep. In other words, to have your money work for you. The stock market as a tool for wealth creation is unique in terms of the buying and selling of businesses, and that it allows you to own a part of a business without having to get actively involved in that business, and it allows for fractional ownership. Now, the reason why I want you to think along the lines of the stock market as a tool for creating wealth by allowing you to own a fraction of a business is because from time to time, when I look at comments on social media, you might see an article being posted that some conglomerate or some bank or some business that is listed on the Trinidad and Tobago Stock Exchange has recorded fantastic profits. And you'll see among the various reactions, comments along the lines of, wow, you know, they're making all of this money. Why don't do X? Why don't they do this? Why don't they do that? And there is a sense among people who are not so minded that if these companies are making money, it is at the expense of, rather than for the potential benefit of the average citizen of Trinidad and Tobago. So having an investor's mindset and seeing the stock market as a tool for wealth creation is about shifting your mindset to one in which when a company that you follow or in which you are invested posts their most recent results, you get excited because you own a piece of that business, you identify with it, and if it is that they have declared record profits, you're thinking to yourself, okay, great, that means I have a dividend to collect at the end of this quarter. That means that the price might appreciate now that this news is in the public domain. So as we get into the mechanics of the stock market, how it works, how you open a brokerage account, I want you to keep in mind the big picture, which is that all the stock market is, it's an avenue that allows individuals to own a piece of a business without having to get involved in the day-to-day management of it. And it allows you to earn passive residual income without having to trade your time and your labor for money. So if a company pays a particular dividend, if its share price is appreciating in value, you continue to see that return on your investment, even when you are not trading your time and your labor for money. That is the ultimate benefit of investing, and the stock market is simply a tool that facilitates that on a fractional basis. For example, NCB Merchant Bank would have recently taken public a company called Eric Solis Marketing Limited, which is a multi-function commercial printer and business-to-business services company that's been in existence for over 50 years. If you wanted to buy that company wholesale, that is not an opportunity that is available to the average citizen of Trinidad and Tobago, being able to buy a business wholesale. What the stock market does and what we were able to facilitate is to allow you to own a piece of that business at a level and at a scale that is comfortable for you based on where you are in your investment journey. So remember, just to recap, what we are ultimately talking about is an avenue for business ownership. You don't have to pick stocks. You are owning a piece of the business. Think long term and allow your money to work for you so that you are not limited to simply trying to trade your time and your labor for money as your only avenue for creating wealth. There are only 24 hours in a day, and there are limits as to how much of your time and your labor that you can trade for money. So with that said, I would just want to close out my remarks by saying that thanks again to Philip Williams and the Fill the Gap team for allowing NCB Merchant Bank to have this platform to speak to you. Investor education is something that we are very passionate about. And remember the words of Warren Buffett: you don't pick stocks, you buy a business.
Marley, thank you so much. And Marley has set the tone nicely for me to roll into my presentation, where I'll be focusing on demystifying the stock market. And just to zero in on, while I'm sharing the screen, to zero in on a key theme: ownership. Ownership. You're owning part of a business, right? So I'm going to share my screen. So this is just an overview of what we will be chatting about today. But, just following on from Marley, when you think about the stock market, I think even sometimes it can be a bit complicated or complex. So think of, the stock market is a place where people come to buy and sell shares. The object, so when you buy a share, you do have ownership. So that was Marley's underlying theme. You have ownership in a company. I would say, one of the main objectives to buying a share, you want to be able to, so you spoke about value, you want to be able to buy a stock that, you buy it low and you have the opportunity to sell it at a higher price. Now think of the stock market like an auction. So it's not a physical place, but we way back in the days, actually, it was a physical place, people running up and down with orders. Now it's more in a digital space, but think of an auction where, if a lot of people want to buy a stock, that pushes the price up. And the reason why people would want to buy a stock is because they have faith in the management, they see the value in the business, and they see where it's going long term. The opposite side of that is when people, if there are a lot of people wanting to sell a stock, that puts downward pressure on the price. And then maybe something, is happening in the economy, or the company is just not performing as well as it was performing before. So, and buying stocks, by the end of this presentation, it is very easy, right? And the reason why, before I move on, that a company will put their shares on the market. So Marley mentioned the IPO of Solis. The reason why a company would do that is because they want to raise capital to expand, maybe buy another business, and just to continue along the path that they're on. So that's why stocks come into the public domain. All right. So that's a high overview of what the stock market is. This here really is a high level of what our Trinidad and Tobago stock market is about. So when we're talking about the stock exchange today, our focus will be on the local stock market. Now, this screen may look a bit jumbled, but I want you to think about a big pie, and everything that you see in the percentages there are all of the companies that make up the big pie of our local stock market. And what you're going to see on the side is the ticker symbols, which is a symbol of the short name for some of these companies. Right, so in terms of a dollar value, just to put this in context, all of the companies listed on our stock exchange is just roughly around $100 billion. Now, when you buy one of these companies, you have ownership in the company, and you have, a stake in the profits. So these are some of the companies that you may be familiar with. Now, there's not all of the companies listed here, but some of these places you do have stocks to select from. Some of these places you may shop at or would have, purchased stuff at some point in time. And I always like to remind you that you don't only have to be a consumer. You can be an investor and have a share in some of these profits. So, when you see the notifications or the correspondence in the papers and see big profits, and you know that you have shopped in one of these places, that means you've contributed to their earnings. But you also have an opportunity through the stock market to participate in these earnings and participate in these profits. So I mentioned before, the ticker symbol, that's just, so sometimes you might see these things and, it seems complicated, but a ticker symbol is just a short name for a stock. When someone is, someone is selling, so when someone wants to buy stocks, there has to be someone on the other side willing to purchase these stocks. And for you to be able to access the stock market, you must have a brokerage account. And the two main benefits of owning stocks, right, would be capital appreciation and dividend income. So when I spoke about the auction earlier on and a lot of people wanting to buy a particular stock, so, because they think it's going to do well in the future, they have faith in the management, and let's say that stock was at $1, but in a year's time, it's $1.50. That means that the stock has appreciated, and you have the opportunity to gain through capital appreciation. The other way that you have an opportunity to earn is through dividend income, right? Dividend income is really, that's just a fancy way for saying the profits that a company would share with you. And it depends on, companies are not obligated to, are not guaranteed to pay a dividend, which I'll show you in the next slide. But this in the bottom corner here, you have an idea of some of, the amount of dividends that would have been paid on the Trinidad and Tobago Stock Exchange. And when you have access to the stock market, you now have access to, these profits or dividends that would be shared with investors. So the two ways: price appreciation or capital appreciation and dividend income. So a company's performance is improving, sentiment is going to naturally shift, and that's going to increase demand, that's going to push stock prices up. And that is what, hopefully that's what you get. But sometimes it depends on the economy. The stock market goes up and the stock market goes down. But in general, this is what price appreciation is, right? Having a good belief based on what, you've seen, based on the data, based on the numbers that is, that's in the financial statements, because really what's in the financial statements is basically telling a story of what's happening with management and how the company has performed. And when companies are doing well, the stock price gets pushed up, and that's what drives price appreciation. In terms of a dividend, so this is just high level, a board approval. So, sometimes some companies may not make as much profits. So it just depends. The board is going to have to approve a dividend, and the dividend is declared. So the X date, which is an important date, that's the date that you would have to own the stock to be able to have access to this dividend. And there's the record date, and then the dividend payment. So this is the process of how dividends would be paid. Again, companies are not, dividends are not guaranteed. Companies do not always share their profits. It just depends on what is happening. But certainly once a company is doing well and they're steadily making profits, that's why it's important to select the right companies, right? That is how you have access to dividends. And in terms from a long-term perspective, I know that people may have, be a bit concerned in terms of market volatility, but just think about this. When you're investing, it is not about getting rich quickly over time. So getting rich quickly, it's about steadily investing over time. So you have the opportunity, once you get earnings and you get dividends, you can reinvest. And over time, that is how you get the growth, and that's how your investment increases. So long-term is the view, and that is how you win with investing. steady and just being very consistent. And sometimes, so I mentioned stock prices going up and going down. When you're investing consistently over a long period, you do have the opportunity to mitigate or, offset some of those downward movements. So the real aim, the objective is to be investing consistently over time to get the full benefits of the stock market. So it's not about, I invest today, I'm hoping to get 100% return tomorrow, or I want to double my money in 6 months. It does not work like that. It's really about being consistent over the long term. In terms of just some of the keys to wealth and what you get from investing, I just want to reiterate, certainly there's dividend reinvestment, you have the opportunity for higher returns. So sometimes you might opt for a safer investment, something that where your principal is protected. So you might say, well, Phil, I'm really not comfortable with losing any of my money. And I understand that, but it's also important to understand the risk that is associated with not taking any risk. So by investing in the stock market, you do have an opportunity to protect your dollars from inflation. So you would recognize, I'm sure when you go into the supermarket, prices are going up and prices are going to continue to go up. And a great way to hedge against inflation, keep up with the cost of living, is by investing. You also have an opportunity because there are different options on the stock market. You can diversify. You don't have to put all of your money into one stock. You have a number of stocks to choose from. And we did mention passive income and the time, because of its owning a business versus owning a piece of a business. That's very, very different. And you certainly have access to regional companies. So it's not just companies in Trinidad and Tobago. So our composite index, we have companies across the region, particularly in Jamaica, like NCBG. So very, very important in terms of getting started. So I did mention, key takeaway here is that yes, you may have a challenge losing, Philip, if I invest $1 and then tomorrow I see that it's 99 cents or 98 cents, I have a bit of a challenge with that. And understand that, and it's very good for you to know that from the onset, but it's very, very important also to understand that if you are not prepared to take the risk, a lot of those, the big goals that you're working towards, the risk there is that you're not giving yourself the best shot to achieve that big goal, whether it is owning a home, sending your child to university, whatever the goal is, starting a business, retiring early, right? So think about that when you're thinking about your restaurants, but it's a great place to start because it's important to know yourself before you get into the realm of investing or you embark on your investment journey. So in getting started, these are things, again, to consider. What are your financial goals? What exactly are you working towards? And that is what's going to determine how you position your hard-earned money. How comfortable you feel. What is your time horizon to reach to this goal? What options do you have to diversify? And what's important here? What's your knowledge in terms of, how much do you know about investing? Who are the people? Who are the trusted partners? Who do you rely on in terms of getting information and being very knowledgeable about the stock market? What needs do you have? And it's important to, when you're investing, because you mentioned the process of having a brokerage account, it's important to pay attention to the fees and the commissions. And of course, overall, what's happening in the economy, because you might say, well, I think one way to look at this is, some people might say, well, the stock market is not performing well, or a particular stock is not performing well. It doesn't mean that that's a bad company. It could be a reflection of what is happening in the economy, and the stock market generally should reflect what is happening in the economy. And these are things that you need to think about before you actually get started. In terms of just getting started, this is before I hand over to shift gears here. This is just an infographic of what you need to open a brokerage account. And I said, just think of a brokerage account of an investment account. You put money in the account, and then you have the ability to buy and sell shares. So we're going to shift gears now to I'd like to introduce our next speaker. She holds a Master's of Business Administration with a focus on finance from the Arthur Lockjack Global School of Business. She has a strong background in sales, investments, and relationship management, with over 7 years of experience in the financial services industry. She has also demonstrated skills in executing investment services, managing investment portfolios, and conducting comprehensive research on both local and foreign markets. Please join me in welcoming Ms. Georgina Zakru.
Thank you, Phil. I also have a presentation to share, just one moment. Right, so again, I'm Georgina Zakru from NCB Merchant Bank, and today I'll be discussing opening a brokerage account and how it works. Just to give you a little background on who we are at NCB, NCB Merchant Bank, Trinidad and Tobago is a non-bank financial institution and broker-dealer in Trinidad and Tobago, regulated by the Central Bank and Securities and Exchange Commission. Our parent company, formerly Edward Gale and Company, is a pioneer in Jamaica's equity market, holding one of the first 5 seats on the Jamaican exchange since 1968. We at NCB acquired our TTSE membership in June 2021, becoming the 7th brokerage firm registered with the TNT Stock Exchange. As a dedicated broker, our primary focus is to launch IPOs for small and medium enterprises, providing these businesses with vital access to capital growth and opportunities. And as Molly would have mentioned before, we recently launched Eric Solis Marketing Limited, which was a huge accomplishment for us. Today, we'll be exploring requirements to open a brokerage account, what is Go IPO and how to open an account, and how to use the TTSE online platform, also known as TOP. So the requirements to open a brokerage account are simple. It's just one form of ID. If it's a driver's permit, it will have to be accompanied by either your national ID or your birth certificates, a proof of address, and proof of income, both within 3 months. Typically, our trading fees start at 1.5%, but at NCB, we actually offer a discounted commission rate if you input your orders via the TTSE online platform, also known as TOP, which is 1%. And the minimum amount to start your investment account with us is 2,500 TC. Right, and Go IPO, I just have a short video to show you on how to use it and how to open your account via that platform.
NCB Merchant Bank, Trinidad and Tobago Limited welcomes you to Go IPO, your digital gateway to accessing investment offerings. Before starting your application, please ensure you have the following documents in soft copy. Proof of income. This should be the most recent job letter or payslip dated no later than 3 months. Proof of ID. This should be your national ID or passport. Proof of address. This should be your most recent utility bill or bank statement in your name, dated no later than 6 months. Now, let's begin. Step 1, initialization. Begin by opening your web browser and navigating to www.goipo.jncb.com. Once there, select the Create Investment Account. Do so on the next window as well. Choose your location by selecting Trinidad and Tobago. Then proceed to scroll down and select Apply Now. Step 2, verification. For security purposes, input your email address to receive a one-time passcode. Enter the code you received and proceed by selecting Verify and Continue. Step 3, personalization. Answer a few pre-application questions, then select Start Application. Proceed to customize your profile by completing the Tell Us About Yourself section. Here, you will provide contact information and address details. Step 4, employment and affiliation. Proceed by providing employment details and completing the Director Affiliate section. Step 5, investment preferences. Select your preferred investment method and enter your dividend payment details. Then answer a few risk assessment questions. Step 6, documentation and review. Submit key documentation by uploading your photo ID, proof of address, and proof of income. Proceed to choose your management authority, then carefully review and acknowledge the terms and conditions for facsimile, email, verbal agreement, top agreement, TTCD dividend mandate, and TTCD agreement. Step 7, submission. Select Next Step to review your application. Once satisfied, proceed by selecting Submit. Congratulations! You are now one step away from accessing investment offerings. Additional details for the completion of your application will be sent to your email address. Thank you for choosing Go IPO at NCB Merchant Bank, Trinidad and Tobago Limited.
So what is Go IPO? Go IPO is a digital platform that NCB Merchant Bank developed to facilitate the electronic submission of IPOs, also to facilitate opening new accounts. All right, and if it is you were to subscribe to an IPO through Go IPO, it would send your application directly to the TTCD. Why should you use the Go IPO portal? So it allows conveniences to you, such as you wouldn't have to visit us to open your brokerage account in person. You wouldn't have to visit your broker to submit an IPO application. So that would save you having to wait in line to organize, as well as to fund the application you can do online. And you can also track your application status online. All right, next we'll talk about how to create a top account, and that's TTSC's online platform, which would allow you to buy and sell online, as well as view your portfolio and track any sort of activity.
Registering for TOP is quick and easy. Following a few simple steps is all it takes to trade anytime, anywhere. So, what is TOP? As a key strategic initiative of the TTSC, TOP is our online trading platform designed to facilitate efficient and faster trading. TOP allows an investor to have 24/7 access to view real-time movements in their portfolio and on the stock market. Before we begin, it's important to note that investors should have an account with the Trinidad and Tobago Central Depository Limited, the TTCD, a subsidiary of the TTSC. The TTCD facilitates the clearing and settlement of trades executed on the stock exchange through a computerized book entry system. This system allows the change of ownership of shares to occur electronically between buyers and sellers without the need for the exchange of physical certificates. If you're an interested investor and don't already have a TTCD account, no need to worry. You may request to open a new account on TOP with any broker of your choice. So how do you access TOP? Let's begin registration. To get started, enter your personal information, then create an online username and password. You will be prompted to enter 3 security questions, any one of which you may be asked each time you log on in order to verify your identity. When you've completed this step, click Continue to review and edit your information. Read through the terms and conditions and select if you agree. You will receive an email confirmation with an activation link. Click on the link in the email and follow the simple instructions on the screen. It's that simple. How do you register your brokerage account on TOP? Now that you've registered, you can now add your TTCD account by logging on to TOP and simply clicking on the Add TTCD Account button located at the right-hand side of the page. Fill in your account information, then click Submit. Your broker will receive an email confirmation with your request. Once approved by your broker, you will receive an activity confirmation email. Next, how do you access funds to trade? TOP provides you with a safe and simple way to access your funds to trade. By clicking on the Fund In, Fund Out Request button, located at the right-hand side of the page, you're one step closer to trading online. Select the Fund In option. Choose your TTCD account, then enter the amount to be added to the account. Click on Review Request, then confirm the Fund In request by selecting the Confirm button. Your broker will receive an email confirmation with your request. Once approved by your broker, you will receive an activity confirmation email. Now, you're all ready to trade. Let's trade on TOP. Simply log onto your account and click on the Place an Order button located on the right-hand side of the page. Next, select the TTCD account from which you want to trade and then select Buy or Sell. Enter the stock you wish to trade, the quantity, and the price of your order. Once you've completed this, click Review Request to confirm the details of your order. Once you've verified the information, select the Confirm button. And that's it. Your order has now been placed in the order book. Now that you know TOP's key features, simply log on to top.stockx.co.tt to sign up and get started. We thank you for tuning in to the TTSC's educational series on TNT's stock market. interested, invested, involved, and hope you've gained the information you need to determine your entrance into the stock market. Always remember, you should obtain the services of a registered financial advisor to assist you in making your investment decisions. You can always visit our website at www.stockx.co.tt for more information, to access company news, performance, trading summaries, and more.
So this platform was created to facilitate efficient and faster trading to investors, as you would have seen in the video clip. And Top allows investors to view and access real-time movements in their portfolio and of the markets. And that would be it for this presentation. Thank you for your time, and thank you to Philip and the team for having us. I'll now pass you back on to Phil.
Thank you so much, Georgina. And that is one of the most frequently asked questions across our platforms. How do you open a brokerage account? You know, what's the process? How do you get started? So thank you very much for that, Georgina. If you're now joining the session, you're just in time to see some historical highlights of the stock market, as well as some of the highlights for 2024. So I'm about to share my screen. Okay, so this is a chart of the stock market. The takeaway here is that, so I mentioned earlier, the stock prices fluctuate. It depends on what's happening in the economy. It also depends on how business is being run. So this is a lot of data over time. And the reason why I pulled this graph is because the long-term trajectory of the stock market is up. That's the point I want to get across. You may have some ups and downs. So this is our TT composite index. So that includes the companies that are not just only in domicile in Trinidad, but as well as in the region. And this is the other chart, which is the shorter one, is our TT index. So it just shows the returns over time and how the prices or the overall stock market has moved. But the key takeaway is, generally, even though the stock market fluctuates, generally the movement is up. This is just looking at it here from a different point of view with the actual returns. So you're going to see some years that have negative returns. So you see in green, some pinkish, some red. And that's just the temperature of how the stock market has performed over these years. So important. Some years are going to be up, some years are going to be down, but in the long term, you are looking at moving upward. All right. So the top performing stocks this year, Ansa McCall, Prestige Holdings, and Unilever. These are just some of the highlights from this year. I would note that this year is not a great year for the stock market, but keep in mind, the stock market is not about getting rich overnight. It's not about doubling your money in some weeks or some months. It's about long-term investing and how you want to position yourself for those long-term goals that you have. And this is a great avenue. So this is just for you to get an idea of, so when you're seeing the returns, that's the returns of the overall market. So if you remember that pie chart from the beginning, that's in a nutshell overall how the stock market has performed. And these are the top 3 performers. I just want to just give some key highlights because maybe you do shop at Ansa McCall. So just for you there to give an overview of what the company is about, but most importantly, pay attention to, again, how the company has performed over time. And it's also important to know, exactly what a company does. It's important to look under the hood and get a sense as to what the business is doing, where are they going. So I just thought that I would give an overview of these top 3 performers, right? Prestige Holdings shouldn't be a secret to anyone, but of course, if you're eating KFC, Pizza Hut, Subway, any one of these things, you would have contributed to Prestige earnings. And this is just a sense of how Prestige has performed as well. This is the second performer, and Unilever. So this example here I was using, Republic Bank, and just again to drive home the point of long-term investing. And I probably should have started off this segment. So historical performance is not necessarily a guarantee of what's going to happen in the future. It certainly is a gauge of, what has happened. It's certainly a gauge of what you can look forward into the future, but there are no guarantees, right? Remember, the stock market goes up, it goes down. And also, I should have started by saying that this is not a recommendation from Philip Williams or from Phil the Gap. to invest in any of these stocks. So this is just used as data to draw as an example. So this is the price return of Republic Bank over the long term. So if you have a loan with Republic Bank and you're paying interest on a monthly basis, certainly you would have contributed to these profits over time. Here, I just want to draw an example to why it's important to start investing early. So let's say someone started investing in stocks at 30 years, right? And they invested $1,000 each month over 20 years, so until they got to 50. This is just an investment calculator. The return that I used was 8.1%. So generally, stock markets over the long term, the return can range anywhere between 8 to 10%, 7 to 9%. So I went middle of the road, which is conservative. So this is not, I'm not saying that it's a 10%. So I'm not saying that 8% is guaranteed each year, but over the long term, remember the up and down. So this is what this simulation is showing. And at someone starting at 30, at the end of the period, taking into consideration reinvesting, let's say reinvesting the dividends and the compounded growth, they would have 600,000, right, at the end. You could see the total contributions there at 240,000, and what would have been earned is 360,000. But what I want you to look at is the person who started at 20 years old. And the issue or the point I'm trying to drive home here is time is very, very, very valuable. Or you may not be 20 years old, you may not be 30. The point is, the sooner you start, the better. So it's very, very different, 1.5 or 1.5 years, sorry, versus 600,000. Again, these are simulations, and it's really just used to prove a point or draw to your point, draw a reference, sorry, that to the pointing to it's important, very, very, very important to start early. So I'm going to shift gears to the question and answer segment. So I'm seeing a question, why is the stock market performing so poorly at the moment? So I can take that. So the person who asked that question, you are correct. So the stock market is performing poorly, I would say mainly because of where things are in the economy. Now, it's not a bad or certainly not a doom and gloom scenario for Trinidad and Tobago. We do have some bright spots, but it's certainly not a scenario where there's very robust growth and people are excited about the economic environment. So typically what would happen in when an economy is performing very well, so let's say, for example, people may take more loans, people may shop more, the economy is a lot more vibrant, and those things usually drive down to the bottom line or the profits of a company. The opposite of that is when things are not that great. People may be a bit restrictive in terms of their spending. So in a situation like that, it would reflect what's happening in the market. And much of what you can see right now in the market, I would say, is a lot of, so people, their supply, there's not high demand, and there are more people wanting to sell shares. As I mentioned, that's what drives performance. But what I want you to keep in mind is that maybe the scenario this year, but that's not necessarily what's going to be the scenario over the long term. I don't know if anybody else from the panel wants to jump in, but I just wanted to kick the ball off rolling with that question. Why is the stock market performing so poorly at the moment?
Sure. So, good morning, everyone. What I would say is there's been a general decline in Trinidad's overall performance over the last couple of years, but there have also been other factors that have affected, particularly some of the big names like Republic. Without going into too much detail, a big one was the fact that CIF, which is the Clico Investment mutual fund unit holders, who are basically people who lost money with Clico, they got the government bonds, which are then converted to units in CIF. They would have been given Republic Bank shares, direct Republic Bank shares, and they would have started selling to get their cash back. That would have put some downward pressure on the price. A couple of companies had some mixed results, but I would argue generally results have come out very good, and even increasing. For example, Republic for Citizens, but the prices haven't reflected. So I would argue is a great opportunity to buy some of these stocks at a discount. It's cheaper than it's been over the last couple of years. So I would say even things like Massey, there was some strange news around, but the reality is Massey has been improving and doing a lot of great things. So I would say Massey, Republic, First, all these people are on the rise, but the stock prices haven't reflected that. And I would argue that over the next 3-5 years you will get a lot of value in holding these stocks. And I know Marley mentioned Warren Buffett's, but another quote I like is better to have time in the market than time in the market, and I think that's important. Phil would have mentioned that to consistently keep investing, buying shares. Now is actually a great time to start because you're getting stocks at a lot cheaper than they were a year or two ago. So now is a good time to start, and then over time as you will benefit from it, but keep investing. And we hope to bring more SME IPOs to you soon.
I was on with Ishan. Thank you very much. Thanks a lot. And I hope that answers the question. Thanks for adding to, contributing to my response. The next question, I'm going to direct this to Marley. Who is the best broker in Trinidad and Tobago? Didn't mean to put you on the spot, Marley, but I'll allow
Happy
you
to be
take
on the
this one.
spot. So I am obviously quite biased in favor of NCB Merchant Bank Trinidad and Tobago, but given that the nature of my profession is to give the best possible advice without fear or favor, my personal bias aside, which I've ethically disclosed, the best broker is the one that gives you the best possible service, the swiftest possible execution, at the lowest possible cost in terms of commissions and the price to you. So the best broker, in my humble opinion, is the one that simply treats you the best. And that varies from person to person. So I can speak from now until the sun sets about why I think that NCB Merchant Bank Trinidad and Tobago Limited is the best broker. But you will have your own relationships that you may have forged at other financial institutions. And sometimes the personal relationship that you might have with your broker or your financial advisor may be equally, if not more important than the brand, so to speak, because that level of personalized customer service and that level of personal care, what you will find as you go along is that the willingness of your broker or financial advisor to take your call at odd hours, to go above and beyond in terms of giving you financial advice, to alert you to dangers financially that you might not have even considered, that is who the best broker would be. It would be the individual. Brands are important, yes, but it would be the individual who gives you that level of service. Many people in this industry, unfortunately, adopt a very transactional model. They are trying to earn revenue off of you by trying to convince you to buy and sell shares so that they can earn commissions. These are basically salespeople. What you want is a broker whom you can trust to be your advisor and to seek the best interest of you or your family. So yes, brands matter, and it's nice to be dazzled by the nameplate on the door, but when it comes right down to it, the best broker is going to be the individual who gives you that level of service. And that transcends brand, it transcends company. It comes down to the personal relationship that you have with that individual. Can you call that person 11 o'clock in the night and have them take your call? Can you have them call you and say, listen, there's an opportunity, or I was reviewing your portfolio, there's a potential risk that you may not have seen. Can that person say to you, listen, I was thinking about your situation the other day, and I have something that I want to run by you. And can that person advise you in your best interest, even if there's nothing in it for them financially? That is the best broker.
Marley, that's excellent advice. Thanks very much. And I trust that that should have answered the question. I think while I have you on the floor, I'm just going to ask you this other question that's being
Sure.
directed to you. Can I begin an investment journey without a permanent, or let's say rather long-term source of income? If so, is it recommended to do so? Should my focus be on finding a more stable income?
It depends. So not everyone who invests is a permanent salaried employee. Some people are self-employed. Other people are contractors. Maybe you have intermittent and sporadic sources of cash flow. There's nothing preventing you from opening a brokerage account if that is the case, because we understand that if you're a business owner, if you're a consultant, if you're not a full-time permanent employee, your cash flow cycle might look a little bit different from someone who is a teacher or a nurse in the Ministry of Health, for example. However, what I would say is that ideally, if you want to invest, you should be in a
Yes.
position where your day-to-day, or I should say your monthly living expenses, are covered comfortably. And ideally, depending on your circumstances, you also want to be in a position where you have set aside a bit of emergency funding. Now, there are different rules of thumb in terms of how much that emergency fund should be. I won't go into that because, you know, there are exceptions to certain rules. But I would say generally, if you are not in a position where you have that level of comfort, you have a bit of an emergency fund, and you can reasonably forecast what your monthly expenses are going to look like for the next few months. If you are not quite there yet, you may want to focus more on stabilizing your income and making that more predictable. Because if you invest prematurely and you're hit with an unexpected bill, an illness, you know, a contract doesn't come through, the business hits a slump, something happens that is outside of your control, you don't want to be in a position where you are selling investments in order to meet day-to-day living expenses and in order to meet the contingencies that just pop up in everyday life. So focus on that first. And once you have a measure of comfort in that particular area, I would say then is when ideally you may want to start thinking about investing. Now, you can start thinking about it now. You can start articulating a view now, but you really want to be in a position where, you know, your monthly expenses are covered, and ideally you have an emergency fund, the equivalent of a few months living expenses. So you get hit in a car accident, sorry, you know, something happens to you, you don't have to dip into your investment fund in order to pay for that.
Thank you very much, Mali. Okay, so now you have a clearer understanding of how the stock market works, how you can benefit from it, and certainly you can definitely get started. So let's just say, you know, after this webinar, you take action and you open a brokerage account with NCB Merchant Bank. What are you going to invest in? Now, I began the session by highlighting why financial education is important, particularly if you are in a situation where you have more credit card debt than emergency money saved, you don't have any money saved for retirement, or you just don't know how you'll be able to achieve some of your big goals because you don't have enough money at the end of the month. You know, you just have enough money to pay bills, right? If this is you and you need help, at the beginning, I promised that I would let you know a bit more about PTG's I Invest program. It's a comprehensive online financial education course focusing on the following areas: budgeting for your life, saving with a purpose, managing your debt, setting smart financial goals, and of course, investing to create wealth. It's designed to meet you right where you are, then help you to get yourself in a position to move comfortably forward to achieving the big goals that you have. So here's a sneak peek into the program itself. I'm just going to share the screen. Welcome to the Fill the Gap I Invest program. I'm Phil, and I am really happy you chose to take the next step of your financial journey with me and Team PTG. Here's what you can expect. There are 5 modules with topics and accompanying exercises, videos, and voiceovers for you to work your way through at your own pace. I know you may be eager to get started investing, but before you begin your investment journey, it's important to assess your personal financial situation to know if it's the right time to start. The PTG resources and tools provided will help you to prioritize what's important to you and help you to align your finances with your values. You can also email any questions you may have. Now, before we go any further, please rest assured that I am also on a financial journey, just like you. And even though we might be at different stages, I had to identify the gaps in my financial education and find the information to fill those gaps. Next up, we're going to look at where those gaps may be for you and how you can fill them too. So it's a easily digestible 5 modules. Module 1 lays the foundation and provides you with the tools to create your own personal income statements and balance sheet. Module 2 helps you to calculate your appetite for risk and gives you a score in terms of how you feel about investing. Module 3 breaks down the financial products available in TNT and what is best suited for you. Module 4 shows you how to do a financial health check on a company so you can decide if an investment is a go or no go. And Module 5 pulls it all together. This is where we help you build your investment team. Now, just by you being here today, you are already ahead of the game. You are part of the Fill the Gap community, and you have a preferred broker in NCB Merchant Bank, which will give you access to the stock market. But there's only so much information that you can digest via webinars like this and on social media. So back to the question of what would you invest in? Now, when you join the I Invest program, you become an official member of the I Invest Club, which gives you direct access to me and the expert PTG team, which will show you how to set up your portfolio and guide you in terms of what you should be investing in. So in terms of, how to access and get, if you need to get more information, you can email us at admin@fillthegap.co. You can also visit us on the social media platforms on Instagram, Twitter, LinkedIn, and click the link. If you click the link today to sign up for the I Invest, you get access to a limited promotional discount. Remember, it is all about putting yourself in the best position to be able to achieve some of your big life goals. All right, now we are almost at the end of our time together. So I must say a big thank you to Marley, Georgina, and Ishan from NCB Merchant Bank for bringing us up to speed on how to open a brokerage account. And of course, thank you for joining us today to learn how you can get started on the stock market. Thank you very much. Have a wonderful day.